I welcome you all to my next lecture of OSHA online training. So in our previous video, we have basically covered what is safety management and some of the key concepts and terms relating to safety. I am discussing safety management system because of the reason that in OSHA course or in IOSH course or NEBOSH course, we do learn these courses in order to learn the safety of something. We learn these courses in order to know about safety of an organization or eventually the safety of the workers working in the organization. So it's really an important thing to know about the safety, that what is basically safety, and then move on to learn those courses. For example, if you want to make your base strong for OSHA, IOSH and NEBOSH, which are three main courses relating to safety, then you must have to have developed your skills in safety management. You must have to know that what is safety, why we require them, what is safety and health management system. These are really important things in order to make your base strong. So that's why, that's the reason that I'm emphasizing more on the safety. Although in our today lecture we will cover what is safety, and then we will switch to our main course, which is OSHA or Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You have to stay tuned, because another reason of giving an overview about safety and completely guiding you about safety management is that after our OSHA course, I will announce IOSH course, and then after that, if the feedback was good, people, then I will also announce a NEBOSH course IGC1 and IGC2, which is really a demanding course in the whole world. The pay scale is really high. Those people who have NEBOSH certifications are really getting a huge pays or salary. Although OSHA certification has also a very high level of salary, even IOSH, if someone have IOSH certificate, then he will also get a very high pay. If you have an OSHA certification, or if you have the OSHA knowledge, you can get a very huge salary in any organization around the world. So that's the overall reason of telling you everything about safety management system. So let's switch to our today topic. Today we will basically study what are some of the responsibilities and roles of a safety officer. Being as a safety officer, what are your responsibilities and tasks that you will perform on the daily basis in the organization? We will in depth cover this thing, and it is really important for every safety officer, either working in OSHA, either working in IOSH or NEBOSH, that he must have to know about his or her responsibilities. So we will study this thing today in the detail, and we will cover all the thing relating to the responsibilities and roles of a safety officer. So you will have no query in your mind relating to this topic. And then we will switch to our main and first topic of OSHA, which is introduction to OSHA. I will introduce you to OSHA, what is OSHA, some of its history, what impact it has done up till now, and where it is located, and all of these stuffs. So these two will be our topic for today. So our today lectures outlines are basically roles and responsibilities of a safety officer. Then we will switch to the introduction of OSHA. So first, if I talk about some of the responsibilities of a safety officer, the very first responsibility of a safety officer is to provide training to people. A safety officer must have to provide training to the workers. If a workers do some work, then a safety officer have to tell him that you have to do this work in this way, and he will have to properly train him to do a specific task. A worker cannot initiate the work without the training of a safety officer. When a worker join an organization and any kind of task or work he do, he will have to first take training from a safety officer. For example, if a forklift or a truck driver operate the truck, then he will take the instructions from a safety officer. Although he may know about how to operate the truck, but he will take some precautions from the safety officer relating to the work area, how to operate, where to operate, and to how many hours to operate. All these things he will completely guide him. Or if we take another case, for example, if a worker work on the ladder, in that case he cannot work without the training, and a safety officer must have to tell him to use the ladder in such a way or that way or another way. A safety officer must have to tell him that you have to use the ladder in such a way couldn't be harmed. So in that case, it's really important to provide training to the workers. So the safety officer will provide their training to workers, and he will have to make sure that he had provided the training. The next thing is he must have to enforce the rules, make sure that specified rules are implemented. Before starting any work, an organization decides and creates some rules in the way that they have to work in such a way. They define some predefined rules that we have to work in this way, we have to avoid those things, we have to follow those things, what will be our routine, how we will complete the task. So there is a complete analysis of any project in an organization. So in that case, basically this is the safety officer who make sure that those rules are implemented, because the CEO or managing director could not look after the work. It's only the safety officer who will go to the site and make sure that our policy, our rules are basically implementing in real time in the workforce area. So he will look after the worker, he will look after the work or the task being carried out. He will basically report on daily basis to the upper management, and he will see all the work every hour and every time. So this is the responsibility of safety officer to make sure that things are going in a right way. Then the third important responsibility of a safety officer is to actually investigate accidents or other unwanted events. For example, there happen an accident in the organization, there is a fire explosion, or for example, there is a worker who fall down from the height, and he was basically working on the ladder on the height. So if such kind of accidents occur and someone got injured, so in that case, the safety officer will basically investigate the thing. He will basically be responsible to investigate the accident, that why this accident has happened, what are the reasons, what are the lacks, what are the lapses that we have made, what are some of the things we can do in future to avoid such accidents. So the full investigation of the accident will be took by the safety officer. Although safety officer will not do it alone, he have to take the engineers, line managers, worker representative, and other people in the organization working as well. There will be a whole team who will investigate, but safety officer will be one of them who will investigate. Now what is worker representative, what is line manager, we will discuss these things in detail. There is a full hierarchy of workers or people in an organization. I will tell you and show you the full chart of this thing. The next important role of a safety officer is that he basically demand respect from the workers. Workers who work under the safety officer must have to show respect to him, but in that case, safety officer must also have to show respect for them as well. A safety officer will work in a way that people are happy with him. He must have to show respect and responsibility and work as a human and not as a commander. He have to show sympathy and work in such a way that people respect him. So this is the next responsibility of safety officer. Another important thing which a safety officer he must have to have a clear communication skills. This is because of the reason that when a safety officer work on the site, he communicate on daily basis each and every minute with people or workers. Even he communicate with pedestrians and different visitors. So in that case, he must have to have a clear communication skills. Like it means that he must have to convey his message to the workers properly, so that the worker got to understand that what our safety officer is saying to us. The output of the work will depend on the communication of the safety officer. Secondly, it is also important because the safety officer report to the senior managers. So in that case, he must have to have a clear concepts and communication skills so that he can better convey to his seniors. So a safety officer trains people, but it doesn't mean that he will have to just train people. He have to effectively and train people in a very good way. He must have to have prepare his workers in such a way that a top level management admire the safety officer. Added with a good communication skills, a safety officer must have to have possess good listening skills. He have to listen to his workers. He have to listen to his CEO. He have to listen to top level managing directors, different managers, line managers, worker representatives, and different kind of peoples, visitors, law enforcement agencies, peoples. So he must have to have a good listening skills. Next, a safety officer must have possessed the capability of understanding people's behavior. Why behaviors is important? Because there are different kind of people working in a company or industry. There are a lot of workers, different kind of managers, managing directors, worker representatives. So in that case, he must have the capability to understand each and every person behavior, because he have to carry differently with every person. He have to carry with every person according to his behavior and his attitude, because ultimately this is the requirement that he must have to have done the work in a really good way. So it is really important to understand people behavior, and behavior is also important. And if a safety officer knows the behavior of different workers, he can better understand or convey the concept of safety to to his workers. Now, the next responsibility of safety officer is to make correction of a work error and also follow those corrected mistakes. For example, there has been made a policy or rules of some works, but after implementing the work, there has some error occurred, or there is some mistakes, or you can say some accident or an injury occurred. So in that case, a safety officer will review the process, the policy, and the rules, and will make correction that where we are having an error or mistakes that we are doing, he will basically correct that mistakes. And he will not only correct that mistakes, but he will also then follow that are the worker correctingly working now this time or not. Now then he will look in the future that the workers are basically working correctly or not. So he will have to follow up the work again after the error has been corrected. Next, the important role of a safety officer is to do audits. What is audits? We will study audits in detail, but let me tell you an overview. For example, we have made a policy and an organization. For example, if an organization has made a policy and rules, and then he has assigned roles to different people in organization, and they have implemented it, and then if accidents occur, they are also investigated, and after that reviewing process has also happened. In the very last audits of all the process happened, accident investigation has been audited, policy has been audited, implementation has been audited, reviewing process has been audited, everything has been audited. Investigation is a part of audit. Investigation is little bit relating to audit, but investigation and reviewing is the part of audit. So audit is a full-fledged process. In audit, even law enforcement agencies are get involved. Audits are made by insurance agencies in some cases, and internally audits are also take places. So this is a full-fledged process in the last doing by the safety officer. The next important step or the role of a safety officer is to do hazards analysis and develop risk assessment for them. A safety officer will look for different kind of hazards in the work, and he will analyze it that what are some of the risks associated with those hazards, and he will ultimately do risk assessment for it. Now what is hazards analysis and what is risk assessment? So we will study them in the upcoming lecture. For now, you just have to keep in mind that it's the safety officer responsibility. So he will analyze the hazards and work in a specific work, and then he will actually implement an important step of the safety management, which is risk assessment. Without risk assessment, you cannot join any organization if you do not know about it. Without doing risk assessment project, you cannot do anything. In the NEBOSH course, the IGC2 is all about hazard and risk assessment. In the NEBOSH IGC2, when they ask from you a full-fledged project, it is about risk assessment, and I will let you know this in the detail. There would be round about 10 to 15 videos alone on the risk assessment because it is a full-fledged project and a separate course. So this will be the safety officer responsibility. Next, safety officer will review accidents that might occur in the organization, and he will also take certain actions and steps in order to avoid them in the future. If an accident happened in organization, so what safety officer will do, he will actually review, analyze the process, and then he will try to avoid them in the future. He will actually amend or change the policy and rules, and he will try to look at what I have done mistakes in my policy and my rules and some of my procedures that we have written, so he will actually change it and amend it and try to avoid them in the future in the organization. One of the most important role of the safety officer is to issue permit to the worker before the work starts. What is permit? There would be a separate chapter on permit, but you can actually for now keep in mind that permit is actually the permission before the work start given by the safety officer to his workers. A permit is actually a document where there are specific terms and rules and regulation which must have to be fulfilled. Remember, it is a document which must have to be fulfilled before the start of the work and which must be issued by the safety officer to the worker. So worker will then start the work. Without permit, worker can't start the work. Although there are some low level of work which do not require permit issuing, but it's really rare because in most cases the permit is required. It's also the requirement, like for example, if accident happens, then in that case safety officer will show that I have issued the permit or not. So in that case or stage, it's really important then. Then the safety officer issue toolbox talks or safety induction. We have discussed this thing in our previous video. Like for example, the safety officer will give instruction to the worker, some training, and he will guide them, and he will properly supervise their worker. So it is all about toolbox talk. So it's also before the start of the work. A safety officer also create policies and plans so that to vanish risk in the work area. Even though this is not only the safety officer who create policies and plans, senior level management and CEOs are also get involved and they create a policies or a plan. What is policies and plans? So this would be our first chapter. We will discuss this. You will even study these policies and plans, risk assessments and permits in NEBOSH and IOSH as well. So a safety officer will be the man who will be in the part of creating policies and plans. Now, the next important role of safety officer is to take interviews. When suppose an accident happens in an organization and there are some people injured or for example death has occurred or fatality has occurred, then in that case there might be some witnesses, eyewitnesses or people who were there. So what the safety officer will do, safety officer will basically interview those people who are the witness and who have seen the scene of the accident. So he will take basically interview from him and ask him in a very polite way that what you have seen and what was happened. So he will basically take a polite or a friendly interview. We will discuss later this that how we will do this. It is a full-fledged process. Then safety officer will also face legal issues after an accident. He will meet with legal and enforcement agencies peoples, insurance agencies people as well. So legal issues will also be solved by him because he will have to show that I have issued the permit, I have reviewed the process, I have done this thing and that thing. So it's also the safety officer who will face this thing. Although this is really rare, like organizations don't report low level of accidents. Then doing the evaluations of hazard and risks. After the evaluation of hazard and risk assessments has completed, a safety officer will report to the higher authorities such as CEO and managing directors and, and the upper level management team that these are the lapses and these are mistakes and such actions should be taken. So he have to suggest some safety measures to the upper level management and they will amend it. So this was all about the roles of a safety officer. Now we are switching to our main topic, which is basically introduction to OSHA. That what is OSHA? You have first to understand that what is basically OSHA, why we use OSHA, what is OSHA for, how it helps us, what it stands for. These kind of things you have to keep in mind. So OSHA basically stands for Occupational Health and Safety Administration. What is Occupational Health and Safety Administration? Occupational mean job wise. For example, someone is working in organization, then it is called occupational. Occupation mean the duty of someone. If someone is engineer, then his occupation is engineer. If someone is doctor, his occupation is doctor. If someone is safety officer, his occupation is safety officer. So it is basically occupational health and safety administration. In OSHA, OSHA means that it is for health and safety administration. What is in administration? Controlling or administering or looking after of health and safety is called OSHA. OSHA has the responsibility of worker safety and health protection. Remember this thing that it is the OSHA which is responsible for worker safety and health protection. Now, OSHA is not a man, it is just an organization. Remember, OSHA is an organization in the United States. So, OSHA has the responsibility of workers' safety. OSHA have to make sure that a worker is safe during the work. So, and OSHA has also to make sure that a worker health has protected from certain hazards such as different chemicals or different falls or working on heights. So we can say that it is a basic human right of workers' safety. OSHA can also be called a basic human right of worker safety. It makes sure the worker safety. It is a part of United States Labor Department. There are immense number of labor departments in the United States and OSHA is part of them relating to safety. It is located in United States, different states. So OSHA has different offices in the different states of United States. So OSHA really belongs to United States. Now we will jump to a little bit history of OSHA, that how OSHA has basically originated and why we need it in the previous time. So let us discuss this. Basically, until 1970, there was no law relating to health and safety hazards. Like before 1970, people were working in different industries, but there were immense number of accidents and injuries happening in the organizations, but there were basically no rules and laws relating to protecting workers from such hazards and risks and those injuries or fatalities or deaths. So before this time, several tragedies has occurred. Before 1970s, in 1911, in the New York City of the United States, in one company by the name of Triangle Shirtwaist Company, a fire has occurred. A huge fire has occurred in 1911, which has basically killed 146 workers on the spot. So this was a big strategy. So after that, the government has start thinking about implementing some rules and strategies to avoid such accidents because it was really costing and people were dying during work and different injuries and illnesses were happening from chemicals and certain explosives and different fires, explosions, so these kind of things. So up till 1960s, 14,000 workers died every year. Like every year, 14,000 workers working in different industries, either working in petrol industries, oil and gas, construction, etc. 14,000 workers died every year, and more than 2 million were not capable of doing work due to some injury or illnesses. Like every year, 2 million people were getting some illnesses due to chemicals or some explosive materials, or you can say that some chemical materials. So there were a lot of deaths and injuries and illnesses up till 1960s. So looking this situation, OSHA was then enacted in 1970 officially. So this is an act which is called OSHA Act 1970, in which OSHA has originated and officially announced in 1970. The emphasis of OSHA was basically on health hazards in the workplace. Basically, OSHA seen what are some of the health hazards to the worker in the workplace. It basically give more importance to the thing that what are some of the risks to the worker health. Health hazard or health risk are the things which are not good for the workers. So OSHA emphasized this thing that you will try to find out those health hazards or risks or things which are not good for the health, and we will resolve or vanish or completely remove from the workspace. So now the question arises that what impact or change OSHA has made up till now. From 1970 up till now, like we are living in 2020 up till now, what impact OSHA has made? Like what is the contribution and achievement of OSHA? So the big achievement of OSHA is that from 1970 up till now, OSHA has reduced the work-related death rate to half. For example, let me give you an example. If suppose from 1970, if suppose for example up till 1970, up to 1970, if the death rate per year was 20,000, so now they are almost 10,000. So it has cut down the rate up to half. Like OSHA has achieved 50% in the deaths and illnesses or different injuries rate. It has immensely decreased the injuries, the illnesses, and the death rates to half. So this is really a big achievement by OSHA, and it's really admirable. It has decreases the overall rate of accidents and illnesses, the industries where OSHA has its attention. Those industries, for example, construction industries, chemical industries, different machinery industries, where OSHA has its role or attention, or in organizations where the organization authority has taken OSHA standards and following those standards and rules, there is immense decrease in the overall rate of accidents and illness rates. Now there are some standards of OSHA. What do we mean by standards of OSHA? There are some rules, there are some regulations, there are some steps which every organization have to follow in order to avoid accidents, in order to avoid injuries, in order to avoid fatality or death in their organization. So what are some of those standards that every industry has to follow? OSHA has the responsibility for writing standards and rules and also make sure to enforce those rules and standards. What OSHA do? OSHA basically writes standards and rules in written in the documented form according to the organization or industry. OSHA write rules and regulation according to construction industry differently from the one which is chemical industry. So OSHA will write rules and responsibilities according to chemical industry differently in its own way, and OSHA will also write rules and responsibility for chemical industry in different way. So OSHA will give documented rules and regulation, and then an organization has to determine that which OSHA standards apply to its workplace. So for example, there are different OSHA rules which apply to chemical industry, there are different rules and regulations which apply to construction industry. There are different rules and regulations which apply to a machinery industry. So every organization have its own different OSHA rules and regulation or standards. So first, an organization has to decide that for what thing we are working. Either we are working on chemicals, so the organization has to ask to OSHA that we are working on chemicals, so OSHA will provide standards according to chemicals. Then OSHA will provide those standards and organization have to implement and follow those rules. It is the organization which has to follow the rules given by OSHA and will follow those rules in order to avoid accident, injuries, and illnesses and work safely in the organization and follow the safety management system. Although OSHA will require from the organization to give the report annually or monthly uh, basis, but mostly there is an yearly based report given by every organization or industry to OSHA, and OSHA then determine that either this organization is working accordingly or not. So this was about OSHA, and we have discussed the introduction, what is basically OSHA and why we use it. So we will actually start our detailed discussion about OSHA in our next video, and I will tell you how we can learn OSHA in depth. So, but for this, I really need your feedback. If you have any question regarding our previous lectures or today lecture, you can comment me and you can ask me anything relating to any confusion if you have. I will try to clear your confusion. I'm just delivering my knowledge regarding safety due to the reason that I want to educate people about a health and safety management system. So but like we need motivation, and for motivation try to subscribe to our channel, and also please like it and do a comment, do share with your friends so that people get some benefit from it and get a very great skill in the world. And it's really a demanding skill in the United States, in the UK, Europe, in different Asian countries. So if you got this skill, it's really important. You will not require any other skill, so you will be able to get a really good job around the globe. So try to share this channel with your friends or whatever people in your circle. So it's really motivate me when I see your response on my video. Try to do comments, try to like, try to do share it, and also subscribe in order to get more videos, and click on the bell icon in order to get more videos. Thanks. I will see you in next video. Take care for now and bye.